Good afternoon, folks. We are here in the wonderful Wyre Forest near Bewdley, and we're just following this stream just in this little valley, following that down this hill with the aim to find us some fallow deer tracks, some fallow deer signs, and fingers crossed we find us some fallow deer that we can photograph with the camera, and maybe if we're lucky we get just close enough to get them on the GoPro. Who knows though. So yeah, today's focus is going to be all about fallow deer. If we see anything else of interest, so I know there's muntjac here, there's foxes, badgers, even grey squirrels, you know, plenty of mud. It's just rained after Storm Dennis. You know, we had this massive storm here in the UK and trees have come down, roads have flooded, just complete and total devastation everywhere. So I thought, well, you know, we'll get out the day after, relatively nice weather. We'll get out there, have a look for some tracks. Hopefully they left some good stuff in the mud, and who knows, we may even see some fallow deer. So folks, just walking down this little itty bitty stream right there, and I've come across this kill sign. It's got absolutely nothing to do with fallow deer, but this looks to be the kill site of a wood pigeon, and one way we can figure out what animal has been responsible for killing this species in particular. So can you see the end of the feather here? On the end of the feather it's still all completely fine, it's unaffected, just looks like a normal feather. And what that means is a bird of prey has come along, caught this coming through the woodland, and what birds of prey do, they tend to pluck the feathers out as opposed to chew them off like a fox. So the potential for the birds of prey in here could be something like maybe a goshawk, or you know, like a peregrine falcon, something like that could have come along, or even a sparrowhawk. Might have been a sparrowhawk, in all fairness, they can take a pigeon. That's one way to tell what's been responsible, because it's plucked the feathers out as opposed to chewing them off and crushing up all the ends, because they're all still intact. And as you can see, you know, you can go through, pick up a few more feathers. That one's intact, that one's intact. If you make, you know, have a good look, have a good analyse of the site, pick up a few feathers, a good handful, because even foxes may pull the occasional one out. So if you pull, just, you know, if you're lucky enough just to get that one and you think, oh, bird of prey's done this, and walk away, you may be, you know, there's a good chance you're wrong. Have a good look at everything down here. You know, there's at least 4, 5, 6, 7, there's at least 8 feathers there I can count, 9, 10, 11, even more, you know, that's responsible. Well, that, you know, all the ends are intact, so there's a good chance that is something like a sparrowhawk or even a goshawk. You know, fingers crossed if it's a goshawk, numbers on the rise, that could be quite good. So what we're now going to do is crack on following this river stream, this river system down here, sorry. Follow this down, come up to some of these little sandbars where all the silt gathers, and see if we can find any tracks of anything that's been around. Always be careful, folks, when crossing rivers, because they can look very deep and they're very, very slidey. So it's always best to go slow and steady across rivers. So what we're going to do is, we cross this river, we're going to have a look at these little sandbars where all the sand's been pushed to the side, because these are fantastic for tracks of things like otters, birds that have just sort of, you know, come down for like a little drink, anything like that really, you know. So we're going to have a good look. You can see how easy it leaves tracks because of how wet it is, you know. Footprints just plonk straight in there. There's nothing that I can really see, in all fairness. Ew, this is wet. You know, but it's always good to have a quick scan of these areas. Again, you know, may get the occasional otter, you know, crows, stuff like that come down to have a drink from the edge of streams. So it's very good to have a check. You can get some good tracks and you can take some fantastic photos, and you can also learn a great deal from what you find. So folks, we've just come to this area here. Very muddy, very wet, and as you can see, it leads right up that valley, right through the trees there. And why this is important is because, like I just said to you, have a very good look. You know, this just looks like it's, you know, trampled mud, complete mess. But if you look closely, just right down here, this is a fantastic fallow deer track. You can tell by the size. You know, you're looking at 7 to 8 centimeters in length. Width, you're looking at around about 6, maybe a bit less. But what's important about this one is because it's in mud substrate, the cleaves, so the toes, have actually splayed, so they've gone sideways. So from what we were saying last time in regards to fallow deer when we were over Cannock Chase, the ground's not that wet, so the tracks don't really tend to splay, so the toes or the cleaves are very close together. But what's important with this one is, again, because it's in the mud, the toes have splayed, but these very, very small imprints here are actually the dew claws. Very rarely seen on deer, unless they're in a deep substrate, so say deep mud or deep snow, even sand for example. So these are the dew claws, which are found quite far up the back leg, and that is a fantastic example of a fallow deer track. And it just shows that it's very important to check these very little, you know, these little muddy areas, these muddy crevices, you know, that's out and about, and looking along these river systems, because they'll have to jump him somewhere, and they'll come down for a drink. So this one, you can see, has jumped right across the riverbank onto the other side and gone straight in. Dew claws have gone in as well, and that is a fantastic print right there. So fingers crossed, let's hope we can find some more. Oh, that's deep. Ugh. Look at that beastie fungus. Yeah, it's all hard. Yeah. Oh, look at all this. Now kids, don't get eating that. Magic mushrooms are very, very bad for you. Leave these where they are. Very good for wildlife, not good for humans. They are rock solid. So folks, we come to our next track, which is of a species where people either really love them or they absolutely hate them. It is, of course, the grey squirrel. So this is the hind track here of a grey squirrel. I've got the guidebook out as well, just to show you how important it is just to double check things, you know. I spent the last 5 minutes just having a good look at this track, looking at it from most angles, trying to figure out the story of what this grey squirrel could maybe have been doing, and it looks to be. So a few days ago we had a massive storm, as I've previously told you towards the start of the video, called Storm Dennis, and the water levels here were much higher than what they are now, because you had a day without a lot of rainfall. The levels have receded quite a bit, and I personally think that the water may have been up to here. So this grey squirrel's, there's a good chance it's come down to have a drink, you know, to refresh itself, get a bit of hydration, and then it's wandered off its day. The other chance is, because the track looks maybe a day or so old, that this track was one of a set of tracks which went a lot closer to the stream, and then obviously as the water levels have come up, the tracks have been washed away, leaving all but one. So you can tell it's a grey squirrel because of the area that we're in. In the wire forest you don't get red squirrels for a start, and as you can tell, you've got the 4 toes there. So this is, and there's a little 5th one just in the corner there. So that is the hind track of a grey squirrel, which of course was introduced into the UK a good while back. Now is quite naturalised and pushes our red squirrels back up to Scotland, spreads the squirrel virus, the squirrel pox virus, which of course is not good for your native wildlife. So I just thought I'd show you that one. Yeah, okay, the main aim of today was fallow deer. We found some fallow deer tracks earlier, just further up the stream, which does just show, folks, have a good look around these little stream areas. There's a lot of mud, lots of animals and lots of different species come down these streams to have a drink, look for food, or even just jumping across. So take care, have a look. Obviously remember, safety around rivers and streams is very important, so take that into note. And yeah, just generally have a look and see what tracks you can find. One thing we haven't found on this little tracking adventure of ours is any fallow deer droppings. And the issue with fallow deer in the wire forest is that the sheer volume of woodland that comprises the wire forest is quite vast for the small amount of fallow deer and muntjac deer they actually have here. So it's very hard to find tracks and signs really of deer species. So, you know, one thing I can tell you about the fallow deer droppings is they're about just less than 2 centimeters long. They look like an elongated acorn that you find on oak trees, and they're like a dark brown, blackish in colour. So yeah, keep your eye out, folks, for droppings on the ground. They tend to be in little piles. But another thing that could have, you know, got rid of the droppings is this recent storm. Most paths that we've walked on so far today, besides this one here, have basically been little streams, and if deer have done a dropping on the edge of one of these pathways, that stream, on all the sheer volume of rain we had, could have just simply washed them down the valleys. So folks, just to round off this video, because the weather's getting quite bad, currently heading into a one of the Forestry Commission hides here. Does say don't climb on them, but considering the weather, it's starting to rain. I'm going to go inside and get some shelter while I finish off this video. But just to show you, this is typical fallow deer habitat. You got plenty of cover from big yew trees, quite dense coniferous trees over there. Lots of bilberry, lots of brambles on the ground so they can eat the young shoots. Nice mature woodland that they can forage around in, have a look round, eat the stuff like the acorns and stuff like that when they drop on the floor. It's just a genuinely nice habitat. So what I am going to do is give you a little, if I can get in without falling down, a nice little guided tour of, watch your head, a deer hide. So this is used for controlling the populations of deer. As you can see, very good viewpoints all around. They can see up the pathways, stuff like that. It's actually quite warm, nice little tin roof. So yeah, they use these just to keep in check of the deer populations, if you know what I mean, folks. So yeah, we're just going to round off this video. So what I'm going to say is, get out there, look after yourselves, and keep on tracking.